Hello there, and welcome once again to this platform. I am excited to host you once again for another lesson. The past 2 weeks has seen us examine some aspects of our theme, cultivating a healthy mindset. And we have examined the first part, looking at the power of the mind and some major things that we need to understand when it comes to our mind and our mindsets. And last week we looked at the second part where we examined a few things moving on concerning our mindsets and how it affects our lives. And we considered the fact that what you believe in is a precursor of the signs that will follow you in whatever area of life that you find yourself. So if you believe in the fact that you are able and that you are valuable and that you have the ability to change your world positively, it will inform the kinds of activities that you engage in and inform the outputs that we see in your life. So Jesus says that anyone that believes in him, there are certain signs that will accompany him, and he mentions such as they will speak in new tongues, they will drink poisonous substances and nothing will harm them, they will pick up snakes with their hands, and they will lay hands on the sick and they will recover. So he says that there's a certain belief that if you have, these signs will follow you. And so as individuals, we got to understand that our mindset and the things that we believe in concerning ourselves and our lives and our world inform what we do. And we also said that your interpretation of an event, a person, or a problem is premised on your mindset. So how you handle situations, how you handle individuals that you come into contact with is informed by your mindset. So the more reason why we need to work on our mindsets and our belief systems to ensure that our lives are going on very well. To continue with today's lesson, I want us to say a word of prayer and then we begin. Thank you, Father, Lord, for today. Thank you for the grace to learn and to grow. We pray that you grant unto us understanding as we study in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Thank you so much and welcome once again to today's lesson. Today we are looking at the third part of our series on cultivating a healthy mindset. Cultivating a healthy mindset. And we have looked at the mind and its complexities, how it is important to shape our minds with things that are healthy, things that are sound, and things that are helpful in promoting our progress. And today we want to examine a few things. We left off last week on the fixed mindset and growth mindset. I indicated that when you look at the broad scope of research and understanding in psychology, when it comes to mindset development, we have two major mindset types that are discussed: the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. And I explained that the fixed mindset is a kind of mindset that is not open to change. So it is fixated on a certain way of thinking and believing based on experience, and so it's difficult to change based on a different experience or when exposed to a new reality. And the growth mindset is about improvement orientation, where people with a growth mindset are tilted towards growth, believing that over time they can become better, they can learn to grow, and because of that they are open to change. Now we will talk about three key differences when it comes to the fixed mindset: people that have a fixed mindset and people that have a growth mindset. I want us to look at three key differences between these two people, and then we'll look at a biblical example, actually two biblical examples that I believe will be a good case study in this lesson, and then we'll examine what in psychology is called learned helplessness. Learned helplessness. These are what I want us to examine in this lesson in regard to cultivating a healthy mindset. Now, one key thing is that people with a fixed mindset are fixated on their knowledge and beliefs. So what they know and what they believe from whatever time they were born until the point at which they have been exposed to a new idea or way of perception, they are unable to change their perspective on issues because they believe that their knowledge, their level of intelligence, and their belief system is the best. So these people tend to be directly or indirectly intolerant to new ideas and perspectives because they believe that theirs is the best and must be accepted as such. On the other hand, people who have a growth mindset, although they are confident in their belief systems and their knowledge, they are flexible when they are dealing with other people who have different or differing opinions. So, unlike people who are fixed in their mindsets, growth-minded people, though confident in what they know and they believe, are flexible when they are dealing with people with other perspectives. They are open to new experiences, knowing that over time they can be changed and become better because they are growth oriented. Now, the second one is that people that are fixed because of their way of fixation on their belief systems and what they have experienced over time, they are difficult to change. So someone who has a fixed mindset will say that this is how I know it is done. This is what I have been brought up believing in. This is who I am. Take me as I am. Take my perception or take my opinion or leave it. But this is how I know it should be done. This is the best way to do it, and this is my understanding of the issue. So these people are difficult to change because they have a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset. So when they are exposed to a new knowledge or a new opinion, it's difficult for them to accept it and change in that direction. On the other hand, someone who is growth oriented or who has a growth mindset, you will see that this person is open to change. It doesn't mean that they are vulnerable. It doesn't mean that they are people that can be easily swayed. What it means is that because they know that their knowledge, their intelligence, their talent, and their system of belief is not the ultimate, and the fact that they believe A is the case does not mean that it should be the case at all times. They are open to change. They are open to different ways of doing things because they believe that their current knowledge or abilities can become better over time and by experience. And when you look at the definition of learning in psychology, we say that when we say learning has occurred, it means that there's been a relatively permanent change in behavior due to experience. So people that are growth minded or growth oriented with a growth mindset are people that are open to learning. So there is a room for change based on experience that they have and time teaching them new things. The third and last one I want us to look at as the difference between a fixed mindset person and a growth mindset person is that a fixed mindset person believes that success is fixed. So people who are fixed in their mindsets believe that success is fixed and it is based on internal traits or attributes that are already existent in the person rather than effort. So they believe in talent, they believe in inborn ability more than effort and hard work, so to speak. So they believe that they are naturally good, and therefore whether or not they become successful is dependent on that internal fixed traits that they have. Talent leads to success rather than effort. On the other side, someone who is growth oriented or has a growth mindset believes that consistent effort is the key to their success. So it's not as if they don't believe in internal abilities, but they believe that although there is a certain gift or talent that they may have inborn, their success is dependent on whether or not they put in more effort and whether they are consistent in doing so. So a fixated person believes that talent leads to success, but a growth-minded person believes that more than talent, effort is very much essential to becoming a successful person. So if you look at it, you realize that someone who is a fixed-minded person, who at a point believes that they are unable to succeed in a certain area of life, will not be able to make progress because they believe that they are not born or they do not have that ability to do what they have failed in over time. They believe that if they had that ability, if it was that they were endowed with that talent or ability, then they could have been successful, or they should have been successful after trying out in that particular thing. So if the person is a footballer and after one or two trials the person fails to make progress to maybe a certain level, the person believes that then I'm not born to do that. So fixed-minded people are talent or skill, inborn skill oriented, and growth-minded people are effort and determination oriented. So these are three key differences that I want us to note when it comes to a fixed mindset and a growth mindset person. Now, how does this all relate to us as individuals? Let's examine two scriptures from, first of all, John chapter 5 verse 1 to 9. And this is about a story where a certain man was healed at a certain pool called the Pool of Bethesda. The Pool of Bethesda. Now, I'll take the reading from the New International Version of the Bible, the NIV. Reading from John chapter 5, the verse 1 to 9. It says that some time later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish festivals. Now, there is in Jerusalem near the sheep gate a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here, a great number of disabled people used to lie: the blind, the lame, the paralyzed, the one. So actually, the people that were at this pool of Bethesda were people that were not able, so to speak. So they were disabled people, blind, lame, paralyzed, sick people. So the verse 5 says, one who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, He asked him, "Do you want to get well? Do you want to get well?" Now, the man's answer said, the invalid replied, "I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I'm trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." Then Jesus said to him, "Get up, pick up your mat, and walk." At once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked. The day on which this took place was a Sabbath. So now, this is an account of a man that was amongst a group of people that were lame, sick, and down on the scale of ability, so to speak. And that environment signified an environment of hopelessness. Although there was a way out, if you are not able to get into the pool when it is stirred up by the angel of the Lord, you remain an invalid, just like the man who had been there for 38 years. And so, although he says that I have tried on countless occasions, you realize that he had no hope of getting healed when Jesus asked him, "Do you want to get healed? Do you want to get well?" Because he felt that the only way of getting well was by throwing yourself into the pool. So he was not someone that had any other thoughts that there was a different way of getting healed. And so the only thing that he knew, based on his experience, based on his environment for the past 38 years, was the fact that there is one way to be healed, there's one way to be cured, and that way is to get into that water when it is stirred by the angel of the Lord. And this is where I introduce the subject of learned helplessness. This man was fixed on the fact that my healing is dependent on throwing myself into that water when it is stirred. And so when there was a new exposure to a man that could heal him, and a question was thrown to him, "Do you want to get healed or do you want to get well?" The first thing that his mind went to was how he has been trying a certain way of getting well and it wasn't working, because there were people that were always getting ahead of him. And that will mean that this man will become helpless in that condition. He has learned over time to believe that he is not able to even go ahead of anyone in terms of throwing himself into that pool that brings healing. He had become a helpless invalid over the course of 38 years of being a cripple. And Jesus comes in and introduces a different way of healing. He tells this man, "Rise up, pick up your mat, and walk." And the man received his healing. We see a certain play of someone who is fixated on a certain way of achieving a goal, and he being exposed to a new reality. If he was not open at that point to the fact that what this man is saying could be true, I could receive my healing by responding to his call, I believe that he would have still been an invalid for many more years. So it is important that although sometimes we believe that there is just one way that we can find help, there's just one way that we can get out of our troubles, there's just one way that because of our environment and our exposure, we believe that we can make it in life. Anytime we have a different exposure, we need to tune our mind onto a different path to believe that yes, there is a different opportunity that has presented itself for me to succeed. If not, because of our fixed mindset, we will be stuck where we are and never be able to make progress. The second scripture is Acts chapter 3, the verse 2 to 9, at a gate called the Gate of Beautiful. Now the scripture says, reading again from NIV, now a man who was lame from birth was being carried to the temple gate called Beautiful, where he was put every day to beg from people who were going into the temple courts. When he saw Peter and John about to enter, he asked them for money. That is what he has become used to. All that he knew was to ask for alms. And all that has happened to him for all the years that he had been at that gate called Beautiful was asking for alms as his way of survival. Now, Peter looked straight at him, as John did say, and then said, "Look at us." So the man gave them his attention, expecting to get something from them, because that's what he's used to. Anytime he calls onto anybody passing by for alms, he expects to receive a certain coin or something for the day. But Peter said to him, "Silver or gold I do not have, but what I do have I give you. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, walk." Then taking him by the right hand, he helped him up, and instantly the man's feet and ankles became strong. He jumped to his feet and began to walk. Then he went with them into the temple courts, walking, jumping, and praising the Lord. When all people saw him walking and praising God, they rejoiced together with him. Now, what is the point here? These two scriptures help us to understand that there is a certain way that may become our custom of doing things or believing that we can survive in this world. There is something that we have been exposed to over the years that has made our mind fixed on the fact that if we are to survive, this is the way of escape that we have to pursue. And so, like the man at the pool of Bethesda, who was believing that if I am to get well, then I have to throw myself into that pool. And the man at the Gate of Beautiful, who believed that it is by asking for alms and receiving alms that he can survive. Many of us are fixed in a certain way of thinking, and therefore we have been stuck in our businesses, stuck in our work, stuck in our families, and we are not making progress in life because we are not able to see beyond our experience and beyond our context. And when it is in a state of doom that we find ourselves, we realize that that doom state will remain until someone comes who is able to open us up to a new experience. And if we are not able to allow that growth mindedness to be at work in us, we will not be able to follow through when exposed to different experiences and different ways of achieving. Later on, we will look at how we can move from a fixed mindset based on our experiences in life onto a growth mindset so that we can make so much progress in life. There are certain signs that accompany what I early on mentioned, what we call the learned helplessness. And when we talk about the learned helplessness, it is a situation where someone becomes helpless, so to speak, in a particular situation due to an inability to overcome it over time. So when we take one definition from a source here, very well mined, It says that um, learned helplessness occurs, this in relation to animals, when an animal is repeatedly subjected to an aversive stimulus that it cannot escape from. And this phenomenon of learned helplessness was discovered or developed by a certain psychologist called Martin Seligman and then Stephen Mayer. They did an experiment with dogs, and they realized that when the dogs over time realized that anytime they tried to escape, they were put in a cage, and it's like anytime they tried to, the cage was electrified. So if you try to get out of the cave, any movement means that you will be shocked. And that happened over time. So they began to realize or learn, so to speak. Remember, learning, we said, is a relatively permanent change in behavior as a result of experience. So because they had experienced that shock, after some time they've been exposed to an aversive stimulus, which is the electric shock. Over time they learned that there was no way that they can escape from that condition. So eventually the animal will stop trying to avoid the stimulus and behave as if it is utterly helpless to change the situation. So the same thing happens to us as human beings. When people feel that they have no control over the life events that they find themselves in, that they are trying to change, and that their efforts are yielding no results, they become frustrated and they give up trying. And that is the tragedy of a lot of people within our circles, because they have tried and tried and tried as students, and they keep failing. You realize that some people drop out of school, and some people even give up on learning and trying their best, because they believe that no matter how much I try, especially in subjects like mathematics and science, I have been failing. And so these people give up. They have learned that situation they are unable to overcome. That is what we call the learned helplessness. So when this happens, it's like it leads to a certain form of depression, because the people feel that my efforts are not yielding results. And the people that put faith in God, after some time, when they realize that their prayers, for instance, they are not seeing the results that their prayers should yield, you realize that some will give up praying. But remember, the scripture says that we should pray without ceasing, because it is in the consistency of prayer that certain results that we may find to be tarrying will come our way. So learned helplessness happens in our human society as well, where people, after trying to escape from a certain situation which is not helpful, failing after some time, give up, get frustrated, and fall into depression or a state of isolation and helplessness. It leads to anxiety, to the point where some people will even begin to feel that nobody can help them. And to the worst extent, some people consider suicidal thoughts, because they feel that their world is shattered. Nothing is working for them. If they try it in business, it doesn't work. They've tried education, it doesn't work. They tried this, it doesn't work. They have been doing everything that there is to do. All the strategies that have been given to them seems to be failing. So they feel that, Charlie, this life, as somebody will say, in no balance. Like there's no balance in this life. They give up on themselves, and that is the end of their journey. And these are some of the signs that you would see when people become helpless. People learn to become helpless in situations, which is one thing that is related to the mind. Because as you would see with the dogs, the pattern that was drawing up in their minds, as we discussed earlier, was the fact that it is not possible to escape. So the mind has now taken that up, and what is repeatedly ringing in there is the fact that you cannot escape. You tried it didn't work. You tried it in this time, it didn't work. You tried it in this time, it didn't work. And all that you have received from trying is consistent failure and regret. And therefore, you cannot make it in marriage, you cannot make it in education, you cannot make it in your work. You are hopeless, you are helpless, and nobody loves you. That is what happens when people are consistently exposed to failure. Now, one thing that will happen is that they begin to lack a certain sense of motivation to do. If after some time people are exposed to failure, the mind is oriented in such a manner that they lack any sense of motivation. So any intrinsic motivation or even external motivation will not work. They no longer believe in effort. The mind is now fixed that you are a failure and you cannot make progress. Another thing is that these people begin to withdraw and they will not be able to ask for help or seek help because they feel that this is their condition, and like the man who was at the pool of Bethesda for 38 years, this is their condition and they cannot do anything about it. I believe that if that man had called for an able-bodied person to help him get into the pool, he would have been healed long ago. But because of that form of learned helplessness, he couldn't even seek help from anybody. He had been trying over and over again anytime the angel of the Lord stirred the water, but he was unable to get into the pool before any other person gets there. Why couldn't he seek help? If it is about getting into the water, why couldn't you seek help? Why couldn't you call for anybody to do something that will help you to get into the water? I believe that was one of the consequences of what we call the learned helplessness. He had become okay with the fact that I cannot get into the water. The third one is a sense of low self-worth and self-esteem. People that have become helpless because over time they have failed or that they are not making progress, although they have tried several times. These people begin to lose any sense of self-worth or value. Their self-esteem drops and they no longer believe in themselves, and anything that anybody says, I believe that we have come in contact with such persons, or personally we have gone through certain experiences that made us begin to doubt our own abilities. That if we are not able to seek proper help and get assistance, we may find ourselves dropping down into states of depression, anxiety, and self-rejection. The last one is procrastination. One thing that's this state of learned helplessness does is that it makes people procrastinate things that they should do now. So somebody who thinks that I am unable to succeed at something, or believe that I do not have the ability or I am not qualified enough to do something, or who has even doubts whether that thing will work, you realize that the person will continue postponing. So if they are supposed to start a certain project today, they always feel not prepared. They always feel that they are not prepared or they are not ready. And so they will keep giving excuses. Excuses are a sign that you do not believe in your ability to deliver. So anytime you are giving an excuse for something that should be done now, there is a high possibility that you either do not believe in your ability to deliver good results, or you feel that you are not ready. So that is one of the things that happens with the learned helplessness, which most often is as a result of a fixed way of thinking, the fixed mindset that certain people have. And so they always feel that the time is not right, always feel that the time is not right, and they will keep postponing anything that they need to do. So that helps us to see why it is important to change our mindsets concerning certain things and concerning our lives. That fixed thoughts has to change to a growth oriented mindset. Having looked at what the fixed mindset is and how it differed from the growth mindset, and looking at how it influences our actions if we are not able to think beyond what we have become exposed to over time, and if we become helpless because of a consistent failure that we associate with our lives, how it dampens us, how it destroys us, and how it stops us from rising to the top. So how do you move from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset? I'll be ending with this. How do you move from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset? How do you move from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset? The first one is that you have to have a positive or optimistic worldview. You have to have a positive or optimistic worldview about events. And how do you become optimistic or positive concerning events that happen to you? It goes back to the environment. It goes back to what you are listening to. Remember that the things that you are exposed to over time, remember that we said that mindsets are developed over time. So if you are consistently hearing that you are not good enough, that you are unable to progress, that you are dumb, you are unintelligent, you are lazy, you are this, and all that you keep hearing and experiencing is the fact that you are not good enough. Over time, you will believe that you are not good enough, and it will influence how you live your life. So you need to associate with people that believe that you are also important. People that give you that unconditional positive regard. They value you just as somebody that has potential to be great. If you are exposed to things that are negative, things that make you feel that you are not worthwhile, change your mental environment. Get books that inspire people. Get books, audios, videos. Listen to people. Associate with friends that are making an effort to overcome the difficulties of life. Get friends that believe that tomorrow is a glorious one, and follow through with them. Hang around with them. Read books that are helpful, books that inspire you, books that will inspire confidence in your abilities, and listen to people that motivate you to do more. As you are exposed to that, as you begin to have an optimistic view on life, every event that happens to you, whether it is a shock that comes to you, a disappointment that comes to you, a certain failure that you meet repeatedly, you would have been moving from a fixated mindset that tells you that you cannot change because that is who you are, to a growth mindset that says that with time and experience and with consistent effort, I can achieve success. The mind is the engine room of our lives, and therefore if we are able to have an optimistic worldview, it will ensure that everything that we are doing, notwithstanding the failures and disappointments and challenges and hurdles that we meet, we know and believe that we are meant to succeed. And therefore, if we continue doing, if we put in more effort, we can achieve the greatest of all that we want. The second way to move from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, in situation where you feel helpless, in a situation where you feel that you are unable to succeed or make progress in a particular area, it is important that you seek professional help or assistance. There are mindset development coaches, there are counselors, you can see your pastor, you can see people that are either trained to help those who are limited in their progress, or who are not hopeful of tomorrow. People that can help you to begin to change your view about life and situations. And if you meet a psychologist, for instance, and they are able to take you through all the cognitive behavioral measures and all that, they will be able to help you to transition from adversity to victory, where you now do not see every event as something that is supposed to limit you, but you can now begin to translate it or interpret it as something that is just a stepping stone onto greater heights. Seek the help of professionals, seek the assistance of people that can help you to make your way out of that difficulty or helpless situation that you think you are in. And also engage in activities that restore confidence. Engage in activities that restore confidence. Just don't keep to yourself. The more you keep to yourself and you do not engage in activities where you will see people, or you'll be exposed to people that can tell their stories of how they got out of this difficulty or challenges, the more you are exposed to such activities of confidence building, programs here and there that are able to change your mindset about the fact that you cannot change, or that you cannot grow. Those activities are helpful. So the Bible says that we should not forsake, for instance, the gathering of ourselves together as some other people do, because it is in such gatherings of ourselves together that we can encourage each other and build each other up, so that people that feel that they are helpless, people that feel that they are hopeless and worthless, as they are exposed to such activities and gatherings, they are getting inspiration from all sources and becoming more conscious of their worth and importance. So that's all that we would have for today. I believe that it's been a useful lesson, and to sum up, we have looked at 3 key differences when it comes to someone who is fixed minded and someone who is growth minded. And the first one is that fixed minded people believe that their knowledge and their belief systems are the best, and that whatever they say should be taken as such. They are difficult to change because of their fixed mindset, and that they believe that success is based on internally given talents rather than effort. On the other hand, a growth-minded person, although confident in his or her beliefs, is flexible when dealing with others who have different opinions and perspectives, and is also open to change because they believe that their knowledge and abilities can become better due to time and the experiences they have with others. And thirdly, they believe that consistent effort is very key to their success. And we consider the biblical accounts of John 5:1-9, which talks about the man at the pool of Bethesda and the man at the gate of Beautiful in Acts 3:2-9. There are certain conditions of life that make us become helpless, and because we are fixated on how we can overcome or how we can survive, we do not see any other alternative. Just like the man at the pool of Bethesda thought that the only way he could be healed was to get himself into the pool, and so for 38 years he remained in that condition until Jesus exposed him to a different knowledge, a different experience that brought him instant healing. The man at the gate of Beautiful took alms all the days of his life, and until he was exposed to a different experience, the name of Jesus, that brought instant change to him. If we are in a certain condition over time, something that happens is that we learn to be helpless, and the signs that follow is that we lack motivation to do more. Effort becomes something that we are unable to put in. We fail to ask for help, and we are low in self-confidence and worth, and we procrastinate a lot of times because we have become helpless in our situation. But how do we move on from that state of helplessness? By adopting a growth mindset, being optimistic, being positive about every event that occurs in our lives, and also seeking professional help from transformative people, reading materials that can help us, and also engaging in activities that inspire confidence. Thank you so much for joining in. I hope that you join us for the last part, God willing, next week, so long as God grants grace. Enjoy your weekend and have a blessed time. Thank you.